Welcome to the Road to the Ryder Cup, hosted by Dr. Jeff Poblarski and my dad, PGA golf professional Frank Darby. Let's go USA!
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Road to the Ryder Cup. My name is Frank Darby, and my co-host is Dr. Jeff Poblarski. So, as we do before every show begins, Jeff loves to give us some of the things happening at Bethpage, and he definitely likes to tell us down to the minute when the first shot of the Ryder Cup is going to be hit. So, Jeff, take it away.
Yeah, 76 days to the 2025 Ryder Cup. I kind of pinch myself every time I drive up to Bethpage. As everybody knows, I work there also, but a lot of excitement, construction site. It looks like, carts all over the place, tractors, payloaders. So very, very exciting. 73 days, though, Frank, to the Tunnel to Towers, which happens to be the same weekend as the Ryder Cup. So that's going to be an awesome event too. We're approaching our 25th anniversary, 9/11. But a couple of updates with Bethpage. Number one is August 17th, the Black course is going to be shut down to the public. And then Monday, August 18th, they're going to start the construction on number 18 with that amphitheater like grandstand. So that's going to be interesting. So right now, the only way to play the Black is walk-ups. Weekdays, the last tee time is at 12:30, and the weekends is at 1:30. So we can see how that works out. Just from my own personal life, USGA, I still have 4 more championships to provide performance and recovery care and treatment. I have the USAM, the Women's USAM, the Senior US Open in San Diego, and then the Walker Cup, which is like the Ryder Cup, a lot smaller, but that is for the amateurs, and that's going to be at historic Cypress Golf Club near Pebble Beach. So that's just a little update on that. But I'm super excited for our guest today, who is the manager of the volunteer operations of the 2025 Ryder Cup, Kasey Minnigan. I met Kasey a few years ago. She is responsible for 4,300 volunteers. That's just an army in itself. And I know she told me that without these volunteers, you could not even run a Ryder Cup. So welcome, Kasey.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Yeah, so Kasey, I know you basically started in 2023 with an office in Farmingdale, right? You had a little, what were you on, like second floor of that building there? I think we were up there a couple of times.
Yeah. Right downtown.
And then you moved from that facility on May 25th, and you're in a trailer right in the parking lot where people would actually sleep out to play the Black. That's kind of where your office is. So tell us about that setup and how it's going up to this point.
It's made such a big difference being on site, obviously, the excitement behind it. It's just, as you mentioned, every day driving up there is surreal. Seeing the build and everything move so quickly is just awesome. But yeah, it's nice because we have a big volunteer operations sign on our trailer. So people pop in, say hello, they introduce themselves. Some people ask to volunteer, but fortunately we are full. But yeah, it's awesome. I love the location.
Yeah, so hey, listen, you've got the perfect background. I love doing some research on you this past week here. And first of all, I've been a PGA member for 43 years, and you were born and raised in Frisco, Texas. That's the new headquarters for the PGA of America. And you majored in communications at St. Francis College here in New York. That had to help you with being able to talk to all of these large crowds of volunteers you're going to have.
That's for sure. I'm definitely not shy. But yeah, I grew up in Frisco, so very full circle with the PGA. It's so strange that I go back there for work. It's awesome that I get to go visit family and friends, but also headquarters. But yeah, I went to school in Brooklyn at St. Francis College. I captained the Division I golf team there. And I love it. But yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, so, I was a college golf coach for 23 years at St. John's and a few more at Manhattan. And I think it's so important, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later, Kasey, but I think it's so important to play sports in college, especially golf right now, because you learn so much. If you're going, for an interview for a job and, the person that's interviewing is looking at your resume and it says Division I athlete, no matter what, you've been exposed to grit and resilience and discipline as well. And it takes an awful lot to manage a team concept and that as well. So tell us a little bit how that Division I experience has helped your career.
Yeah, of course. I mean, working in golf, obviously makes a difference when you have a passion for it on top of that. But yeah, there was a lot of hard work that went into it, a lot of time management. I think organization and time management are probably the two biggest things I took out of college golf, and that have helped me heavily in my career. But it is surreal to see how working in golf and, when you're out on the golf course for work, it's unbelievable that this is what I get to do for a living, and I'm just so thrilled.
I know President Ford, when he picked his cabinet, he said, number one, I want a Division I athlete on my cabinet. And number two, I wanted somebody from the Big Ten Conference. I thought that was really interesting. So he knew the value of playing sports in college and the dedication and conviction you have to have, as a job and even in your own life.
We were a teeny tiny school, so surprisingly Division I, but we had a
Yeah.
blast.
Yeah. So Kasey, I know, people have been talking about it was almost like a bundling of the PGA Championship and the Ryder Cup together. And I know that there were 4,300 volunteers at the 19 PGA. Tell us how you went from 4,300 in 19 to 4,300 for the Ryder Cup and how that all played out.
It was actually closer to 3,000
I'm
for
sorry.
the
Okay.
PGA.
Okay.
No
Okay.
problem. It was about 32 through 3,300 for the PGA in 2019. So we did promise all of those volunteers a spot at the Ryder Cup if they were to register in that window. We, I think, got back probably close to 2,000 of those folks returned. A lot of people, it was kind of a way for us to get those volunteer positions secured for the PGA Championship, because a lot of the times we do have to recruit volunteers. Not so much for this event, where we have a million people, it feels like, just knocking at the door trying to volunteer every day. So yeah, a lot of it was a lot of our volunteers that are going to be at the Ryder Cup did the 2019 PGA.
So let me ask you, what's like a typical day for you? And is it changing daily as we get closer and closer?
Yes, absolutely. I feel like there's no day that's the same. But right now we're working on uniform distribution plans. I kind of jump around in what I'm doing for the day and what I'm deciding to work on. We're also at that point where everything's just 2 short months away. So it's just kind of whatever I can get done that day and ordering stuff, making sure volunteer headquarters is all set and ready to go. Trying to find some activations for them, food, snacks. It's all sorts of things. There's a lot that falls under my umbrella.
4,300 volunteers. I know they had to pay $350 and with some taxes, I think it came out to like $392. It's winding up to be probably the best deal in golf if you had the opportunity to volunteer, because you're going to have access to the Ryder Cup the whole entire week, which might be $3,000-4,000 if you had to buy the tickets. But tell us about, they pay the $392, but they get a whole apparel line. Tell us about what they're getting for that money.
So the package that they're paying for is essentially just their uniform volunteer package. That's 2 Ralph Lauren polos, a Ralph Lauren jacket, a New Era headwear piece. They have a choice between a hat, visor, bucket hat, a little commemorative pin, a drawstring bag, and of course, their credential will give them access to the grounds for all 6 days of the Ryder Cup. We just ask that our volunteers act as ambassadors when they're not on show.
And you're also giving them, in fact, I think they're getting premium parking too, and then the food inclusive also. Just
Yes.
comment about the food inclusive. I'm intrigued with that.
Yeah, so every ticket for the Ryder Cup, it does include food. All of the lowest level ticket we have, Ryder Cup Plus. Everything on the grounds is grab and go. So all those markets, there's no paying there. Everything except for our pouring bars, of course, no alcohol included in those. But all food, drinks, non-alcoholic are going to be included with the price of the ticket, and volunteers do fall under that umbrella as well.
So, Kasey, what does the ladder look like underneath you? I know Jeff's part of the volunteer base because he's in charge of marshaling, right, Jeff? I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Walking
Walking
marshals.
marshals.
Yes.
How many other titles are there out there for the chairman?
Well, directly below me, I have two coordinators that help me out heavily. So that's our staff. And then we have about 30-ish committees. Every committee has a range from 1 to 4 committee chairs. So I think I total around 66 committee chairs on all of my divisions. So it's quite the group, but it's so nice to have these people because we need that chain of command. Obviously, I can't police 4,300 people myself.
So the next time we have you on, we are going to expect you to know everybody's name.
I'll start studying.
Yeah, start studying.
Kasey, just give for our audience, just give us the breakdown of I know we talked about this the other day, 4,300 people. Where are these people coming from? What is the
That's
breakdown?
a great question. I think it's about 2,500 that are New York based. So that's obviously going to be the majority. The other folks, we have folks coming from all over the world. We have 46 states that are covered by volunteers. And then we have 28 countries represented as far as Australia. So really just everyone from all over the world is trying to be a part of this event. It's awesome.
So, Dobbs, I have the trivia question for you. What are the 4 states that are not represented at the Ryder Cup?
Jeff, you already gave me the answer about a half an hour ago.
And what is it?
I know Alaska. I think it was Alaska, Idaho, probably South Dakota and Wyoming.
No, very good. North Dakota.
Okay. All right.
It's impressive. I can never remember.
Yeah. But, Kasey, our sponsor of the podcast is the Tunnel to Towers. I know you told me your husband, I believe, ran the race. What was it, last year?
Yes, you did.
Yeah. And they're our sponsors. So everybody, you could go on their website to t2t.org and make as little as $11 a month donation to assist our American heroes. So we're just going to go to commercial break and let's hear from the Tunnel to Towers.
Hi, I'm Gary Player. I'm a professional golfer. I've won 165 tournaments, and I'm one of 5 golfers to achieve a Grand Slam career victory. But what means more to me than all of this is my ability to give back and do good, particularly to the United States of America. That's why I'm committed to helping Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Good to see you, Frank. Good to see you, Gary. How you doing?
You're one of the most successful golfers that ever played the game. You're an incredible human being, but you joined the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. You see the work we're doing, and you wanted to help us raise money because how much you love America.
And I'll never forget one of the days I went for you in Miami. This lady was on duty with her husband, and the police. She heard that her husband had just been killed. Now she's got 2 children. What's the first thought that comes to your mind? How am I going to support these children? How am I going to give them an education? How am I going to give them a normal life? What am I going to do with my mortgage? Tunnel to Towers is right there, across the board. I mean, what you do is fantastic.
Because you know the sacrifice that was made for our country to give us this beautiful country.
I doubt if there's anybody that loves a country more than I do. And I have said gratitude for what this country has not only done for me, but what it's done for the world.
And as a foundation, we're there to help these families after they lose their loved one and they have young families left behind. And I know you're here to join us on that.
Tunnel to Towers is working every day to support America's greatest heroes. Please donate $11 a month at t2t.org. The Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Let us do good.
Welcome back to the Road to the Ryder Cup. We've got a great guest here in Kasey Minnigan. She's in charge of the manager of volunteer at the 4,300 volunteers at the upcoming Ryder Cup as well here. So, Kasey, I was going to ask you a question about what kind of information? I mean, like I said, I think it's pretty cool what you went through. You went to ESPN. You wanted to be a sports broadcaster, and now you're doing something fantastic here, being with the PGA of America, and you work for ESPN. Give me a little bit of a background about what it was like working. Well, actually, I really did like I was looking for my Disney ears because I saw some really good pictures when you worked at Disney World, but we're going to pass on that one. But can you tell us Tell us about ESPN and working for them, please.
Yeah, I actually, when I did the Disney job, I did it thinking I could get a leg into ESPN since they own ESPN. It didn't work out that way, but I ended up getting there. Yeah, I did want to do the media side of things for a while. I loved it. I have a passion for video editing. It's a lot of fun. So I did all the way up to the hype videos for the Super Bowl, Stanley Cup, Masters, was covering highlights for the biggest games in sports, live coverage. It was a blast. Very different from the role that I'm in now, so considering that was kind of like a dark room, a screen, no people like around you. But I was kind of the resident golf girl. So it's fun to jump back into my favorite sport.
Yeah, I think it's pretty interesting because I think on one of your interviews you said something about four big sports, basketball, baseball, football. I'm not certain what it was, hockey. But I'll tell you what, as hot as golf is right now, golf's got to be right there on the outside looking in there.
ESPN calls it the core four sports. But that was kind of why I was the resident golf girl, because everyone else wants those four major sports. But golf's definitely getting in there, and this Ryder Cup is gonna be a shoe-in for a major event. So
Yeah, absolutely. Going back to the volunteers, Kasey, I know you're going to have a volunteer headquarters, which I believe is going to be situated on the yellow course. I know you're going to be going through 20 different training sessions for all of these committees. But one of the committees that I'm intrigued about is the Marshals. I know that's the biggest committee you have of 1,200 people. Why don't you tell our audience, like, what's the responsibility of a marshal and who's marshaling those homes?
yeah, so essentially the marshals are going to be the folks that are going to try and keep the crowds as calm as possible. We still want them to get rowdy, but just keeping the spectators quiet when play comes through, managing the rope lines, and all of that jazz. The people you see on TV with the flags, telling you where the ball is going. So yeah, they're a really important group, a very coveted role to be anything inside the ropes for this event. So it's very exciting. But yeah, most of those folks do come from local country clubs or groups that are around Long Island or even just in the New York area. We have a bunch of local clubs that are essentially sponsoring a hole and covering the marshals for those. I believe there's holes like that are covered from like 24 people that are in a country club all the way up to 114 people that are being brought in from one group. So they're spread out pretty thoroughly, but it's awesome.
Kasey, I think that there's been a lot of talk about, I think New Yorkers get a bad name sometime. So I know there's a lot of talk about will these fans be getting out of control out there? And, I grew up on Long Island and I've been around Bethpage my whole life, running events, the state open. I've set that golf course up 100 times and we never had big crowds, but I was out there for the PGA and I think they're a very knowledgeable crowd about golf. And do you foresee any problems? I mean, they're definitely not going to be as well behaved as somebody from Frisco, Texas. But I mean, is this going to be a little bit of concern about you? And hey, listen, if anybody's going to be out there being passionate and yelling at Keegan Bradley and the players as they're walking by, it's probably going to be Jeff Poplawski.
I think we're expecting some rowdy crowds, that's for sure. I think that's kind of the whole excitement of the Ryder Cup, though. Home field advantage is incredibly important. So we really want to come on with a win and have hopefully respectful spectators at the same time. But that does play a big role in why we have our walking marshal program for the Ryder Cup that Dr. Pawlarski is one of our committee chairs for. So we'll have about 10-ish walking marshals with each group that are going to help the whole marshals that are already out there to help man the crowds as play comes through as well.
We're just coming off, Kasey, the USGA. As you know, I'm involved with them in a big way, but we just came off the Adaptive Open at Woodmont Country Club in Rockville, Maryland. I wanted to give a shout out to Deloitte and Touche, who's basically one of the sponsors of the event. There was 96 participants at that event, and Deloitte actually paid for their accommodation and their travel, which was really awesome to see. But I'm going to spin off that. I know you have a committee called Accessibility Shuttles. Why don't you tell our viewers, for the people who have a disability or some type of handicap, and they're worried about coming to a Ryder Cup, how they're going to get around. Tell us what that committee could potentially do for those people.
Yeah, of course. We bring in a outsourced company, Accessibility Live, that helps us figure out the right way to handle these things, the right shuttle location stops, so that we can have the best experience for these folks. They'll need a wristband that they can grab at the accessibility booth at the main entrance, and that will give them access to our accessibility shuttles that will have stops all throughout the course, with accessible locations nearby.
Kasey, I've got one big question that I want to ask you. And you came through the ranks. You were a junior golfer. You played in high school. You played in college. You went to ESPN. Now you with the PGA of America. What kind of advice? There are so many young girls playing golf these days. What kind of advice can you give them about your career and what they should be watching out for?
As a woman in sports, it's always going to be tough, and people are going to think that you know a little bit less about what you're talking about, which is unfortunate. But just keep your head down and grind. I like to think of myself as a very driven person, and see something that's next that I really set my mind to. And it took me. I think I had applied and interviewed at ESPN probably 10 times before I got a job there, but I kept going, and it made it so worth it. And then I got into this role, which is an absolute dream job for me. So really just stay driven and stay focused on that one goal.
I think, Kasey, I'm just bouncing back and forth. Frank's asking you about your career, and then I'm going back to the volunteer positions. But the Ryder Cup shops, another big volunteer opportunity of 1,200. I think everybody that goes to the Ryder Cup eventually is going to wind up in those shops, kind of like a captive audience there. Tell us about those 1,200 people, those shops, and how that's all going to play out at the Ryder Cup.
Again, one of our biggest committees, those in the Marshals, are the vast majority of where our spots are. And we're going to have those positions open starting Friday prior to the Ryder Cup is when the pre-sale is going to open. So even folks who wanted to volunteer, they could have essentially get their shifts done ahead of the Ryder Cup and get to enjoy being an ambassador inside the gates during the event. So it's a really cool role. You get to see a first look at all of the merchandise. There are a lot of celebs and stuff and VIPs that get to go in there. But it is going to be massive, bigger than I've ever seen. So even just looking at the flooring that they have set up, ready to start building that tent, it's huge.
So there will be a pre-sale for people who don't have a ticket to the Ryder Cup that could go a few days before and do that. Where would those people park to do that?
I believe it's going to be at Bethpage. I want to say where the main bus terminal is what the plan is right now.
Right. Awesome. Yeah, that pre-merchandise sale. Any projections on how much is sold in those tents during it's got to be a couple $100 million.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
I don't think my brain can go up that high with numbers.
Yeah. Hey, we love to throw little shout outs right here, and you live in Farmingdale. Have you been to our favorite tavern in town, BK Sweeney's?
I have been there. Yes.
So make sure you say hi to John Clematis. He's
Okay,
the owner
will
right
do.
there. And Jeff and I are very close with him. And, we're going to do a show there sometime. So we got to make certain that we have you there with us as well.
Yeah, John is actually in the process. I don't know if you heard it. He's going to actually shut down the street in front of his restaurant and the other businesses there too. On Saturday night, they're going to have a band and a concert and big screen TVs. I actually had dinner there the other day, and he was telling us all about that. One other committee that, and I know I'm doing the walking marshals, but we talked about this also. Walking scorers and standard bearers. Tell us about those two committees.
They're by far the most sought after roles for any of our volunteer programs. Obviously, getting to shake the players' hands and walk with them as play's happening is pretty unbelievable, especially at this event. But yes, the walking scores, we only have 16 walking scorers. So all of those folks were hand selected and have done this many times. We wanted to make sure we had very experienced folks, especially with it being match play and It's a little, it's not confusing for a golfer, but might be confusing for some other volunteers never experienced match play before. And then standard bearers, normally we have junior volunteers, but for the Ryder Cup, you do have to be 21 years old to volunteer. So we have some folks who have done it before, plus we take from our PGA Hope volunteers, our veteran program, and have a good handful of them that get to hold the standards and walk with the group.
I was just going to say, yes, that's got to be a very serious group there, the Marshals and I'm the standard bearers and, for the event as well. But hey, listen, Kasey, it's been great having you on here. And, you're almost too relaxed right now. Jeff, we got to get her on here 2 weeks before. But I got a feeling that she can handle it right here. One little piece of advice, don't give up on your sports broadcasting. I can tell right off the bat that, you'd be great interviewing people and doing, that type of content as well. So please don't give that up. Yeah.
Thank you. Little Kasey would be very excited to hear that.
Yeah. Yeah, a few other things before we let you go. I know you just got a little puppy, a little golden retriever called Bogey.
I did.
So how often is Bogey the official dog of the Ryder Cup? That's my first question.
Unofficial. I don't want to get in
Official.
trouble.
Okay. And how often does Bogey come to Bethpage?
I bring him out like once a week. He's out in the volunteer trailer with me. He likes to ride in the cart. I call him the Ryder Pup, even though that's not a copyrighted term. But yeah, he's adorable. He's definitely the talk of the town whenever we bring him out. Try and get him involved in some little photo shoots out there in front of the warning sign. It's fun.
I got something pretty interesting for you, Kasey, and I've seen it done in a whole lot of things. I think that Bogey needs their own website and their own Instagram handle.
Bogey has Instagram and he has TikTok.
Is it? Can you tell our people listening what the handle is?
For Instagram, it's Bogey Golden, and for TikTok, it's Bogey Golden Boy.
Bogey, all right.
I think
I'll be following them immediately.
He was doing really well. He went viral. Had 6 million views on an Instagram post. When he was a little smaller. But yeah, here's my work phone background of him on the cart.
Oh, cool.
Beautiful.
All right.
Oh, thank you. I'm obsessed with him.
Kasey, the Tunnel to Towers is our sponsor, as you heard before, and we're going to send you a beautiful pair of leather-wrapped Tunnel to Towers glasses. Maybe you could take the glasses and have a drink on the Tunnel to Towers in the USA Victory. So we'll get your address, or maybe I'll drop it off at Bethpage to you. For our viewers, please listen to us on YouTube, Spotify, X, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Please like, share, love, collaborate, repost. We'd really, really appreciate that. But before we let you go, Kasey, I had one last question. Doing these events, I've been doing these events for a long time with the USGA, as you know. And you build these relationships with people and, for 2 or 3 years, because I was there in 2002, I was there in 2009, I was there in 2019, and then everybody leaves. You build these great relationships, then everybody goes and people wind up going to different areas. There's a lot of emotions to that at the end of each championship, and we'll have those emotions with you too when you move away from the Ryder Cup. So my question to you is, I know you're on the contract until almost the end of the year, the 2025. What are your plans after this Ryder Cup?
That's a great question. I'm not sure yet. I'm still open to looking around, but I do have my roots here on Long Island now. I love it. So I'm going to be looking for work if anyone knows anybody. But I'm excited nonetheless to see what's next.
Yeah, hey, definitely stay around New York, and we'd love to have you. And thanks so much for coming on. We learned a lot, and I'm really impressed about the job you're doing and staying calm like you are.
Thank you. That means a lot.
Cool.
Kasey, just to definitely, and I mean this from my bottom of my heart. I hate to keep on going back to my USJ, but I've worked with over 50 volunteer coordinators at all these USJ events, and I see some special qualities in you. and I think you're going to be doing a great job for the rest of your life, whatever avenue you do take. But we wish you the best of luck, and we'll see you at Bethpage, my friend.
Thank you guys so much. It was a lot of fun.
Hey,
All
thanks,
right.
Kasey.
Bye-bye.
We'll talk soon. Bye.